So think about this. How many hours do you have in a day? And have you had days where you wished you had more hours? Why did you wish you had more hours? It's all about time management, how we're dealing with the gift of time that we've been given to us. There's a great deal of tendency in our society to escape and avoid and to make excuses rather than dealing with the stuff that's going to give them a sense of freedom. Life is time. We waste our lives when we waste our time. And we get diminishing returns. And this causes a lot of pain for people. Ending the day when you feel as if you didn't do the stuff that was the most productive. And then you step back and you do a self-audit and you realize, I wasted time on some things there that could have made a difference in my life and encouraged me. And it causes anxiety. It causes ADHD for ourselves. And you can probably look around you and think about it in your own life where you've had times where you woke up late or you went to a meeting and then you ended up staying longer in the meeting and you missed another meeting. It ran into something else and you told yourself you wouldn't be doing that anymore and you did it again. But why? So today we're going to talk about what leaders do when we see people that manage their time really well. Here's what they do. Okay, so we have 3 major points, tasks, actions you can take to do better with your time. I want to welcome you to the Decide Your Legacy podcast. So we have recently hit a milestone, gone over 25,000 downloads, and it takes your help to get more downloads. So if you find this podcast helpful, subscribe, like it, share it with a friend. That helps it to grow organically so we can reach and help more people. I'm your host, Adam Gragg, and I have a co-host, Sherman Orr, who is going to chime in today, and we're going to both discuss these points and give you different insight, different clarity. So I'm a legacy coach and family therapist, founded Decide Your Legacy in 2012, and we help businesses and leaders live courageously. And by the way, everybody is a leader. You have friends, you have family, you have people you can influence as well. And your co-host is going to give you and share his wonderful experience as well, which he's going to start sharing with you right now.
Yes. As I go through and think about time management, I have struggles from time to time. And one of those struggles that I have is that I can very easily get anxious about what am I accomplishing throughout the day? Am I doing the best? At the end of the day, when I look back, I'm thinking, gosh, did I get anything accomplished? But then I can, because I do a lot of calendar work, I can go back and say, I completed this task. So don't get anxious about yourself. Don't get fearful about, gosh, am I being as productive as I could be? Because I was productive today. Maybe I didn't get everything done I wanted done, but I began the process. I'm working on it and trying to avoid that anxiety by saying, get her done. Stay with your plan.
I struggle with making excuses and procrastinating by saying it's not really that big of a deal, or I'll get it done tomorrow. I'll put it off. I'll struggle by switching things in my calendar that are not direct appointments with people because I'll make an excuse to do something else in that time block.
Yeah, easy to do,
and a big deal. And so every podcast episode, we share fears that we have faced recently. Why? Because nothing is more important to your mental health than facing your fears, and nothing that I have found is more damaging than playing it safe long-term, avoiding the difficult conversations, the difficult decisions, the difficult investment of your time. And one thing I've done recently is I started to talk to a therapist. Yes, I am a therapist and have been for 25 plus years, but that doesn't mean I deal with my own stuff. And so it doesn't mean I know how to deal with my own stuff. In fact, I don't know how to deal with my own stuff. I'll rationalize it and justify it, and I'll say, I don't have time for that. But it's been a productive investment of my time. Just getting started. I've talked to him twice, and he's been helpful, and it's been good. And mainly because I've gotten some insight into what I do, and insight into why I procrastinate and why I avoid.
Exactly.
That can be really helpful. It's been giving me some hope already. So Sherman, what's a fear you faced recently?
Well, actually, this is a little interesting, I think. And it's not my fear per se, but I think it's God's fear. Now, a lot of people might not know that, but I did a lot of research and such on the Sabbath and on Sunday observances and such. And did all this research, and I found out, why would God say that you should keep holy the Lord's Day? Why should you have a Sabbath day? And I think it's because he knew that we would squander our time. Think about it. There are 6 days, as it says in the Scriptures, 6 days made for work. On the seventh you shall rest. And why? Because God was afraid that, knowing man, that he would spend all of his time working to make money or do things like that, to build things, and he would never take time for himself. He would never plan a day to rest. And so the Sabbath day, I think, is what God does for us so that we can kind of keep to a plan. Sure, it's once every 7 days, but I think also that is about every day, that every day we find some time to rest, renew, and play, relationship with others, that it can't all be about work every day. And it's important. Time management. It's the beginning of everything. If that's out of sync, much of your life is going to be out of sync because of that.
And that is when you think of changes you can make in your life, that change to get some freedom with your time. And what I mean is that you own your time, then there's a big return on investment.
Yes,
on that.
Tremendous return.
So what does that return on investment look like?
I think the return, it's twofold. When we invest our time well, when we plan well, when we manage our time well, we basically, I think, become the human being we're supposed to be, that we become fearless leaders, that we make the choices we need to make, and that really it affects our whole thing, our whole life. When a person has a great day, managed their time well, you can step away and say, look what I've accomplished. Holy cow, I really did it. And then that also transfers emotionally into joy. That it was like, hey, so I've grown in self-confidence that I can do these things, but then I've also got this emotional component that's like, in effect, you're like, congratulations.
Yeah, that's a big deal. You did the hard. So,
yes, you did the hard.
You did the hard. And so we're going to jump into these three principles that, as Sherman and I have discussed and prepared for this podcast, we see leaders engage in these three principles when they're managing their time well. And we can see that. I mean, Sherman is a legacy coach, the newest legacy coach at Decide Your Legacy, and he has a unique perspective based on his experience in ministry and leadership and working in a variety of settings that he's going to bring in and add stories and add insight. My hope for you, the listener, is that you're going to leave this today saying, I can make a difference in the way I do things throughout my day, and it's going to be worth it because the cost of not changing is much greater than the cost of staying the same, which I find is a huge motivating factor for people to want to change. When they really count the cost and see.
Yeah.
And we are going to jump right in. But before I do that, just give a little more intro to Sherman. Can you give some background of yourself? I didn't do a really great job of that. So
yeah, I'd be happy to. Basically, I grew up wanting to know why. I still remember that as a little kid, why. And I got a degree in physics, figuring out the why of the world. But I wasn't satisfied, and so I thought, what else is there? Why? And it led me to the ultimate reason, God. And I also had a burgeoning desire to serve, to help others. I had seen so much hardship when I was over in Europe at the time, doing some studies, and the difficulty people ran across. I said, I want to help people, and I want to help my local church. So I became a Catholic priest for 35 years and served in 11 different parishes. I also taught at the university, at Newman University. I taught high school for 7 years. And so I continue to want to teach others and coach others in how to be the best they can be, to find a fearless life that they know they're living their legacy well.
So how do priests generally do at managing their time?
Most priests are horrible at managing their time. I luckily had a great coach early on that gave me some key insights on the day to not be a workaholic. That's my tendency. So I'm just like my dad was. He was a workaholic. I mean, I still remember Saturdays and Sundays, he was doing airplane stuff. But I learned that just in the basics of saying, you've got 3 slots in your day, make 2 of those 3 work-related, the other one, everything else in your life. So that's what I did. And that really was a beginning. It's big chunks, but it helped me begin to plan my time and work it out best. But I'd say most guys, I would say probably actually most ministers in general, the ones I've talked to, evangelicals and not, would say, yeah, it's very easy to be distracted in the moment by something else that's shinier or prettier than the work I need to get done.
And you have urgent crises that are presented to you frequently when you're in ministry.
Yeah, from time to time you have those, and that takes that priority. But sitting down and looking over a balance sheet, I'd much rather be polishing my golf clubs.
But I can only imagine too that other people's urgency is easily put onto you when you're in a helping profession, that they make it urgent, so it's hard to say no.
Yes, it's very what's important to them is their emergency, and you may not sense it, but because it's emergency to them, you do.
Yeah.
In ministry, you probably do need to stop and take care of them.
So first point, leaders that manage time well, they face the hard stuff.
Yeah.
They stick to a schedule. They're going to find excuses. They're going to be presented with excuses. They're going to be presented with distractions, but they find a way to step back and determine that this is not the best thing for me to do with my time. So the other day, Sherman asked me, in fact, yesterday, he said, is it the best thing for you to do with your time? And I've asked him to hold me accountable because, frankly, I create podcasts to remind myself of things I need to work on often because it's on my mind.
Yeah.
But I know it relates to other people as well, but
right.
Because I have not gotten this thing figured out. In fact, I often, and I don't say that lightly, I often end my day or my weekend and think that I didn't make the most productive use of my time.
Right.
And a lot of it is true because I have avoided. And I also struggle with perfectionism. But that was amazing. I mean, to be asked that and then to get to the end of the day where you're energized makes a huge difference in my life, that I can feel, hey, this was something that I did. I moved the needle. I made some progress here. It didn't go the way I wanted it to. It didn't go exactly perfectly. There was some letdown in the process, but a lot of times I procrastinate because I don't want to be let down. And even I don't create a schedule because I don't want to fail.
Right. But gosh, when you do it, you come back and you say, I can do this, and you feel energized. Like you said, at the end of the day, you can sit there and say, dang, what a wonderful thing, because I used my time well, which is our most precious resource.
Which it is, and I forget that I'm going to feel so much better after I'm done. And you, practically speaking, just take the time to remember how you are going to feel after you've had a productive day. You've followed through for yourself. You followed through on your commitments.
Right.
You've made the hard decisions. You've done the hard things. You've reached out and faced the fears that you have in your life. Like, I don't want to go to talk to a therapist before I go. In fact, that's when I think about the other things that I'm missing out on. And I could be doing this that's more productive. I can't go out with my friends this evening. If I have it in the evening, I can't. But if I remind myself of how I feel after and how I will feel long term, then
exactly
it changes
your ROI, your return on investment of this time. You won't be able to get it back. And you'll realize that, oh my gosh, I didn't get 25% back. I got 1,000% back.
1,000% back.
Yeah.
That's such a big deal. So to be able to identify that, take a Google Calendar. Everybody has access to that. Start plugging things in. Start plugging in when you're going to get up and when you're going to get a workout in and when you're going to do your certain parts of your tasks of the day, when you're going to write your podcasts. I wish I had that in my schedule more often. You're going to get me that.
I'll get you
schedule,
there. Don't worry.
When am I going to have this team meeting and have some consistency to it? And I like to look at my schedule the day before and then the week before to make sure I have this broader view. It's like Sunday night, look at it, tweak some things, what it is, get it set.
Yeah.
And then say, hey, the hard part of that is going to be carrying it out. Like, I only put it in there because at some point I believed that it was the right thing to do, and now I'm going to actually get it done.
Exactly.
So second principle that we see that really great leaders engage in is for them to do the hard, they are playing the long game. They're determining what is the long game and the reason why this is an important task, and this makes it something that they're going to engage in much more likely to engage in if they realize that it's going to have a big impact that you talked about with the ROI. So they're consistently saying to themselves, this long-term is the most important thing for me to do.
Right.
So,
they make that cost-benefit decision, and they look at their vision and let that also guide them as they're looking down. I think back to my own experience that I had air conditioning, the complete air conditioning of a 90,000 square foot building go out. And I was like, oh my gosh, learning about all the fun stuff about HVAC and learning how expensive it was. I had to raise $3.5 million in about a 3-year window. And to get that done, I needed to have the confidence of my parishioners and the confidence of the donors that I was doing a good thing. And to do that meant I had to meet with a lot of people that weren't people I regularly met with, and different groups that I wouldn't regularly meet with because they didn't need me, because I have a full day already. But I had to make more time, I planned better so that I could get to all these groups and explain to them, this is what's going on, and I need your help, and I can't get this done without you. And amazingly, shockingly, I raised that 3.5 in 2 years instead of 3. And I would never have been able to do that if I didn't make that investment of time management and use that resource wisely, get everybody I needed to get on board, and move forward.
How did it feel once you reached that goal? Can you think back at that time and describe how it impacted you?
I can tell you, at first I was dumbfounded, and then I was proud of what I had been able to accomplish, but with my parishioners. So it was a great moment of, I would say, really happiness, because at the time it was like, oh my gosh, we've done this, and it was energizing for me to keep going forward, because then we're all in this together, and let's keep moving forward.
That's a big deal. So you talked about the cost-benefit analysis. So one way to play the long game and to get yourself motivated for the long game is to do a simple activity where you, for 10 minutes, write down on a free flow in a journal, just write it down. If you make these corrections to do the hard, manage your time well, what's the result going to be in a year? If you do that, and dream. So it's going to impact you financially. It's going to impact your health. It's going to impact your spiritual life, your relationships. You have more free time. You're more engaged. You're giving people your attention rather than being distracted. All those benefits that you can see coming just takes 10 minutes, but you got to set a stopwatch and write it down and be honest and do it. And then what you do is you take 10 minutes, and this forces your brain. It's like when you ask your brain a question, it has this incredible ability to do what it's told to do, like an instrument. It does its job because its job is to go ahead and give you the information that you're requesting of it. That's why some people you'll find don't ask me that question. People get uncomfortable with questions because they know that their brain's going to not turn it off if you get asked that question. So, or they they lie and say, well, I don't have an answer, or they don't want to answer the question, then that's putting them in a position where they're going to be, it's called cognitive dissonance. There's uncertainty within themselves about this situation now. So you put them in an uncomfortable situation. It's not wrong to ask people questions. In fact, it's one of the most helpful things we can do as we care about people. So second part of this is that you ask yourself, the question is, if I don't manage my time well, how will that impact my life in a year? I continue to avoid. I continue to procrastinate. I continue to make excuses and listen to those excuses and go down the easy path and not do the hard thing. Well, it's going to impact my relationships in this way. It's going to impact my health in this way. It's going to impact my time, free time in this way. And then you look at those lists and you determine which one you want. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And most likely you're going to look at those lists. If you have the courage to do this activity, and you're going to look at those lists and say, hey, I don't want this list. It's so similar thing is like, if I keep drinking, what will I get? If I stop drinking, here's what I'll get. That motivates people to make some big changes, and it's going to channel your energy into playing the long game in your situation. And it's going to encourage you to start spreading that to other people, even because the results that you can actually get. Practical thing you can actually do. Can you think of other practical things people do to get their mindset shifted into the long game mentality?
I actually, you mentioned alcoholic, and I was just thought about this for a second, is that, so alcohol and time are both resources. Alcoholic abuses that resource. A workaholic abuses that resource also, time. And so, but I think that if you were to start that journey of sticking to a schedule, maybe just doing it for 1 week, write yourself out a schedule, know that it can be malleable, but you got to try that discipline of sticking to it for at least a week, and then keep those commitments unless something else really big comes along, like an emergency. But you'll find, I think, at the end of the week, again, like we keep saying, you will find that you are accomplishing much more, and then you'll gain your great self-confidence, and there'll be that pleasant feeling of success that I did it.
1 week.
1 week, that's all.
1 week. You think you can have that kind of return?
Yeah, I think so, definitely.
In 1 week. Yeah, okay.
For the person that wants to avoid it, I say start that journey with your example, journal. Because if you don't start right there, because that's going to be a great motivator and a great way to think about life, that will get you on the right foot. You don't want to, like the Chinese proverb, if you twist your foot on the first step of a 1,000-mile journey, you're going to limp all the way there.
All the way while walking the entire Great Wall of China.
Exactly.
You'll be limping the whole way. Yeah, that's really good feedback. Have you ever seen somebody or experienced this where, and I bet you have, where you notice somebody, they're a good leader, they seem happy, yet they're pretty rigid, and they almost like have this sense of rigidity that you don't want to ask them for time.
Mm-hmm.
They get that, and then you do ask them for time, and then they're very flexible. But they present in a way where it's kind of, hey, they're not flexible. I mean, right. I've been pleasantly surprised. They make time for you. They make time. I think people that are in ministry can have that. They have so many other problems, so they're not going to make time for me. And then you can be surprised. Or somebody that's a really high-flying professional, and they make time for you. And there's something that I have seen great leaders do is they own their own attention. They make it and they see it as their property, but they're very generous with their property in the right situations.
Right. Exactly.
So that's what I see it happen. I mean, if you were getting ready to go to work and you went out to your car, you started your car and it's running, and then you pull away and then you realize, I left my coffee and I left my lunch. So you stop, but you leave your car running, go in, get your lunch, get your coffee, but then somebody took your car because it was running. I mean, it'd be pretty stressful. Whoops. But what if they brought it back and they said, hey, I just wanted to take your car to the gas station because mine ran out of gas and I need to fill up my tank. I mean, you would probably still be bothered by that because your car is your property. Like you own that, and you take care of your car, and you want to take ownership of your time as well because it's yours. Right. It's something to take very seriously. Take yourself seriously. Take your time seriously. And we can work on that because, if we are willing to do the hard and we're willing to play the long game, then it's going to take this another level that I see great leaders do is where they take it so seriously that provides the willingness to say no. That provides the willingness to say, I can't do this, I can do this. They have good filters in their life.
Yeah, I have a great story that you reminded me of, and that goes back 35, 40 years. I met one of the foremost doctors in the world at the time, Dr. Jerome Lejeune. And I was at a conference with him. He was testifying lots of cases. He was from France. He was coming over here testifying for lots of cases. And I had a question for him. He had worked a lot on Down syndrome and working on the whole chromosome question. And we were in a huge crowd. There's probably 15, 20 people surrounding him. He was closed in. And he looked at me and he said, do you have a question? I said, yes, I do. Here it is. And his attention was right on me that whole time, even though everybody else was trying to grab his attention. That was a man who was in charge of his attention, and he gave it there perfectly and realizing that was important for me to teach me to say, don't let the shiny objects distract you from what you need to be paying attention to.
So you didn't think he would have time for you, but he surprised you.
Yes.
And paid attention to every word you were saying.
Yes.
And you remember that conversation 40 years later because it was so much intention.
Yeah. Yeah. He owned that property of his intention. Yeah. And it was just, we could learn that. We could learn a great lesson from that. And just like you said, your attention is your property. Most of us don't think of it that way, that it is something as valuable as your home, as your car. So don't leave it running outside with the keys in it.
Right. Take good care of it.
Yeah. Don't leave your house doors open, unlocked all day.
Yeah. Yeah, and nobody can distract you unless you let them. You can own your emotions as well. It's like nobody can make you feel anything unless you own that feeling. Mm-hmm. If somebody called you, Sherman, a huge fat man, you would laugh at them because you're not. You wouldn't really take it seriously, hopefully.
No. Yeah.
You'd be like, they're crazy. Or if somebody said, it's like, you see a drunk person that's cussing at you and you kind of laugh it off.
Yeah.
Because you're owning the fact that you're not that. You didn't do anything to deserve to get cussed at, so it doesn't even really bother you. You can learn to not give away your power, not give away your time, not give away your emotional health because you're owning it yourself. And to do this, I have some buddies who own businesses, and they've encouraged me to read a book called Buy Back Your Time. And there's an activity in Buy Back Your Time. Dan Martell, good book to read, recommend it. And activity where you track your time. I believe it's for 2 weeks. Maybe it's for 2 days. I think it's for 2 weeks. You track every 15 minutes of your time and how you spend it. So create a spreadsheet. Just write down, made a podcast, made phone calls, saw a client. Whatever it is, you're just going to give yourself some insight into how you're using that time in that period. And you got to be honest about it, because if it was, worried for 15 minutes, then you got to write that down. Did nothing but watch
YouTube videos.
You got to write that down. So you're getting a picture, or had lunch, and that's a good thing. Had lunch, relaxed, chilled, whatever. But you're putting it down in a way where you can see some patterns in your life, and those patterns are greatly valuable. But why do I not want to do this, Sherman? Because it's accountability.
Yes.
Self-accountability. Like, I look and talk to you and say, that little time management pros and cons things, what do you get if you invest in it? What's the cost? That is kind of intimidating for me, because it would be painful to look at it.
Yeah. It could scare you.
It could absolutely scare me right there. But that's a practical activity you can engage in. Check out that book as well. So there's something that I've seen happen with people, though, that I got to actually identify. And over the years coaching people, I can pretty much predict one thing that I'm going to get from every client, and it's resistance to change. It's going to come out in procrastination and of all kinds of different forms. It can even come out in anger, resistance. And so people will say, and they'll come back again with the same problem again and again. They come to coaching and they have one big goal in mind, and that big goal can be some external goal oftentimes, like I want to have more revenue, and I want to increase the amount of business by 20%, 50%. So they have a goal in mind. And then they determine some actions that they can take. One of them oftentimes is owning their time, but they keep coming back with the same, I can't do it. It's not going to work, or I tried, or I didn't have time to do that. So they're not taking action. And it used to frustrate me. I would tell you, it used to be like, well, why didn't you get it done? So what are you paying for here? What are we doing here? I mean, my success it'd be a real selfish thing sometimes, but like, hey, I got to help. And I would say this in a way I felt like it would make sense, but I used to say things like, you're my best referral source. Yeah. So you got to get this done.
Yeah. Your success is my success.
And that's very true. And I think
that's a very positive way.
Yeah. You can say it in a positive way, but what I've found is often when they keep coming back and they got something that they're not making any progress on. And I've seen this again and again. I've seen this with so many clients. I've seen it with lots of friends. I've seen them make breakthroughs. Is they have this moment where they realize that trying is not going to actually work. It's not going to actually work because the reason that they're procrastinating goes deeper, and it's not hitting at the core issue that's actually holding them back. And that core issue that's holding them back is going to be connected to something that's unrelated to the current situation, but they're bringing in history and pain and stuff they haven't actually faced in their life that they've avoided, that they're not actually addressing. And when they address that stuff, they can make the breakthrough.
Right. Exactly.
So like what I'm doing, going to a counselor, is if I can remember that I have reasons that I get triggered in situations that remind me of stuff in the past, that's going to help me to be more courageous in those situations, to go and be in those situations that trigger me.
Yeah, exactly.
In a smarter way.
Yeah. I go back, of course, I'm old, but if anybody were to remember the most famous line of any great movie from the 1980s, it would be Wayne's World. And I go back to the one thing
Wayne's World.
Wayne's World with Garth and somebody else.
Okay.
But the blonde-haired one is asked a question, and he never talked much, but his only response was, "We fear change." And that, I think that's one of the best lines for humanity. I'm going to stay stuck in this problem because I fear that maybe I know that this is what I need to deal with.
Yeah,
and so we fear change.
Dude, and that's our job, is to help them deal with the core stuff.
Right.
So a business comes in and they have a surface level problem, and it's not the core problem. They say we have this one bad employee who throws everything off, and he's just a butt, or she's just a butt, But the reality is that's a symptom of a deeper issue of accountability and trust and communication and goals and vision. And we get at that core stuff. And that's so exciting because if they correct that, then they can move forward and have healthy relationships, have healthy dynamics in their business, not make it about performance, make long-term change that's going to change not only their lives, but the lives of the people they work with and their families and their own joy and the impact they have on the world.
Right.
Which is super powerful in the whole process. So let's go ahead and sum this up. If you want to be a good leader who manages your own time, you want to face the hard.
Yep.
You got to do something hard. So think about things you're going to do that are hard that you're putting off, and you're going to put that on your calendar and start making some progress. You're going to play the long game and clarify that. So you keep that at the forefront. You remember how you feel after you do something that's hard because you're playing the long game, because it's leading you towards the vision, and you're going to own your attention and not give it away to other people.
Right.
Not a good thing.
No.
You get to choose who you're going to give it away to. And there's great people to give it away to.
Yes, there's
plenty. Yeah. And something I've noticed about Sherman, playing golf with him twice, is he's very good at giving his attention, and in a way where you feel heard and valued. And if you think of it as you owning your attention, you get to show love to other people when you pay attention to them.
Yeah.
And by you giving it and not owning it and giving it to things that are distractions, it's taking away your ability to love other people.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Crazy cost benefit analysis of that right there. So
wonderful.
So, I know. So if you would like to check out a podcast that we did back, I don't know, a year ago, a month ago. No, it's probably a year ago, but it's on making every 15 minutes count. And I go in deeper into that concept of tracking your time and owning your time and seeing how you can take ownership of even every 15-minute block. And you can do significant productive actions in 15-minute chunks of time.
Yeah.
Which is so cool. You can get a workout in You can get some real good exercise in 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Can you make progress on your golf game in 15 minutes?
Yes, you can.
Yeah, you can make progress on your golf in 15 minutes. So your attention is your property. You'll make my day if you apply some action from today. What was one tip that you heard from Sherman? One insight you heard from Sherman or myself that you can apply by the end of the day today? Make a commitment. Do it. Teach it to somebody else. Put it in your calendar. To decide means you're eliminating other options. Your legacy is your impact your life has on other people. There's no positive change until you decide to change. Decide today. Your legacy depends on it. I want to close the way I always do. Make it your mission to live the life today, Sherman, that you want to be remembered for 10 years after you're gone. Sherman, do hard things. Adam, do hard things. You decide your legacy, nobody else. I appreciate you greatly, and I'll see you next time.